Hello and welcome to Philosophy Roulette. This is episode 68, apparently, where we read philosophy papers and react to them live on the internet. Let's see what we got. Pure and applied, yeah, can't do, oh, that's too bad. Look at all this nice work on pure and applied logic. Can't really sit around reading formulas all this whole time, so I can't do those. Annals of Science, what is that? It's like historical stuff? It looks like reviews. The Naturalization of Mathematics? That's 25 pages, though. Well, this looks like a cool journal, but not much for me to read in there. Cognitive Science. That sounds a little too sciencey for me. Well, let's just take a gander at their papers. Yeah. I mean, building creative mindsets. I mean, that's kind of cool. But yeah, I'm not going to sit around reading a scientific study. I mean, that would be cool, but like, just not let's just take a look at what this journal even looks like. This one. Oh, look at that. They got the paper. Alright, let's take a look real fast, because I have no idea what I'm about to look at. Lossy surprisal. Yeah. I mean, it's 54 pages. I'm just taking a look at this for sort of edification. I just want to know what the journal sort of publishes. Yeah, formal statement of lossy context surprisal theory. Yeah, you're getting a little sciencey, but that's good. Okay, so there's like modeling work and discussion and relationships, and now we're getting pictures and yeah. See, this is what worries me, because if I ever hit anything like this in a philosophy talk, I won't be able to. Like, hey, look at the graphs. Like, it's not much from. I can't really describe what's going on very quickly, but okay, this looks like a nice journal. But again, more science than philosophy. Same problem with the complexity. Complexity is cool, except that I can't really do anything sitting there reading off numbers off a page. Constellations. A dialectical reading of intersectionality? I don't know what this is. Let's go to the next issue. See what just came out. Power and political power, depoliticized acquiescence. Spinoza and aristocracy. Nothing of length, unfortunately. They don't have the page lengths on these things, so not much I can do if I... See if these are even here. They are, how nice. 18 pages, yeah, it's a little bit more than I want to read, because I did one that was like 15 or 16 yesterday, and it took like a full hour, and it's hard to read for that amount of time. Again, 35 pages, that'd be 18 single-spaced, or about 17 and a half, so it's can't really handle that. Tao, or Journal of Comparative Philosophy, so we're gonna get, looks like Chinese philosophy. That would be cool. Could do some Chinese philosophy. I did something about Zhuangzi the other day. That was nice. More Zhuangzi. Is Zhuangzi a wonton? Man, Zhuangzi gets himself into some funny questions. I mean, is Zhuangzi a wonton? Well, I'm not going to find out. That's too bad. Do filial values corrupt? How can we know? Clarifying and assessing the recent confusion debate. So it's 15 pages. Let's take a look at it. And it looks like it's here. The phenomenology of ritual resistance. Colin Kaepernick as Confucian sage. Really? Okay, that's interesting. Ritual resistance. Alright, so maybe... Well, how long is that one? It doesn't say the page numbers on it, so I can take a look. Although this one is probably here. Full disclosure, I've met Hagap. He's a nice guy. I've gone to the comparative philosophy seminar before in New York City. Just for, trying to hear some interesting talks. I've been there, and for all I know, I've actually heard him talk on this topic before. I doubt it, no. He hasn't given a talk. Let's see. Let's see how long this one is. This is like 29. That's not happening. Yeah, it was all. That's cool though. Alright, Colin Kaepernick as a ritual sage. So we're gonna do this Hagop paper, which is cool. So here we go. If you are joining me live any day, and I hope you do one time, you can get the paper link by typing !paper in the chat box. Oh, there's 19 pages? Oh, wait a second. I'm sorry. If there's 19 pages, and it's single space, yeah, I'm not getting... It'll take me an hour and a half to read. It's just like, nope, not happening. 19 pages is not good. Toward Chinese Christian theology? Okay. Alright, I'm tired of this. It's like, I'm also afraid of what I have to read. Like, if I have to read, like, really hard things today, I start losing my mind after a while. Okay, and of course, the first thing we get here is non-word Boolean and non-self Wuji resistance to duality. Alright, so this says it's only 12 pages. If it's available... Nope. Let's see. The problem of the present on simultaneous synchronization and transnational education projects. Capitalism's slavery. We're all wage slaves at the moment. Beyond technological unemployment, the future of work. What are we going to do? Universal basic income. Andrew Yang thing this. Let's see. Rhythmic nootechnics. Well, I've heard the word nootechnics before. I probably just was looking at this exact paper, but nope, can't get it. Alright. Wiring the global brain. Let's see. Maybe there's a global brain, but is there a paper for the global brain? No. Maybe. Sometimes these are open access ones. PDF. Yeah, free access. Come on, clicky. Click. Download PDF. Okay. I can handle a 6-page, even though this is a semi-small font. That's fine. Yay! So this is what we're going to do. Thank you for having an open access paper, although I know that's a lot of times has more to do with funding than, sometimes if you can afford to, that's good. Okay, cool. Alright, and we're good to go. So, wiring the global brain. Michael A. Peters, Faculty of Education. The Global Brain Institute, founded in 2012 under Francis Halayan as director, studies self-organization and forms of distributed intelligence emerging from the internet. Ooh, we're gonna have like internet brains. It uses scientific methods to better understand the global evolution towards ever stronger connectivity between people, software, and machines. So we're like, this is like cyberpunk here. We're like cybernetics. As the site indicates, the GBI was part of a global brain group that, together with a research group at Vrije University Brussels Evolution, Complexity, and Cognition, became part of the Center Leo Apostel, founded in 1995 as Transdisciplinary Research Department, named after the Belgian philosopher who helped lead a group of scholars to articulate the idea of the 1994 worldviews from fragmentation to integration. Described as a short proposal, a kind of methodology for worldview construction, an invitation to look at known facts and theories from another point of view with new, different, integrating purpose. In face of fragmentation, this proposal engages in the prospect of constructing a new worldview, its several components, and its purpose before briefly outlining 23 projects that can be understood in terms of a kind of unity. As they write, we look for the unity of the universe in order to discover the meaning of life. This is like big problems, oh my god, even for philosophy. Value problems, the relation of ethics, politics, action, and reality cannot be avoided. The proposal is connected with praxeology, psychiatry, the interaction of language games, the ontology of the various ethical, political, and religious systems incorporate this need. One can see why the GBI chose this monograph as the basis of its inspiration. Halayan in a summer school in cognitive science, web science, and the Mind Institut des Sciences Cognitives, UQAM, Montreal, Canada, gave a talk in 2014 towards a global brain, the web as self-organizing distributed intelligence, that was emblematic of this call for unity, which he describes in the following overview. Distributed intelligence is an ability to solve problems and process information that is not localized inside a single person or computer, but that emerges from the coordinated interactions between a large number of people and their technological extensions. The Internet, and in particular the World Wide Web, form a nearly ideal substrate for the emergence of a distributed intelligence that spans the planet, integrating the knowledge, skill, and intuitions of billions of people supported by billions of information processing devices. Yes, this sort of sentence smacks of 90s optimism about the Internet. Maybe we're at a low point right now in 2020 with just sort of failure to understand. We're basically in information wars. This also happened after the explosion of book printing. Like, once everyone can talk to everyone else, and we're not, as humans, we're not supposed to be able to do that. We're just driving ourselves crazy. But this is this is the 90s optimism of this stuff. This intelligence becomes increasingly powerful through a process of self-organization, self-fragmentation, and siloing, which causes us to get ourselves into bubbles. Okay, excuse me. Let me actually read what the author has to say. This intelligence becomes increasingly powerful through a process of self-organization in which people and devices selectively reinforce useful links while rejecting useless ones. Yeah, okay, so we've got, oh, this is sort of like pre-memetics. So this was a link sharing theory as opposed to the like meme sharing theory. Okay. This process can be modeled mathematically and computationally by representing individuals and devices as agents connected by a weighted directed network along which challenges propagate. Challenges represent problems, opportunities, or questions that must be processed by the agents to extract benefits and avoid penalties. Link weights are increased whenever agents extract benefit from the challenges propagated along it. My research group is developing such a large-scale simulation environment in order to better understand how the web may boost our collective intelligence. The anticipated outcome of that process is a global brain, that is, a nervous system for the planet that would be able to attack both global and personal problems. Yes, 90s optimism. Very 90s optimistic. The first three objectives of GBI are: 1. Develop a theory of the global brain that provides a long-term vision of the future of information society. 2. Build a mathematical and simulation model for the dynamics of global brain. 3. Survey the most important developments in society and ICT that affect the evolution of the global brain. I assume ICT is information communication technology here. The fourth is a formulation of greater interest to our readers. 4. Investigate how both observed and theorized developments impact on measures of globally intelligent organization. Okay, education, democracy, freedom, peace, development, sustainability, resilience, well-being, innovation. I'm certainly interested in this group and their research and formulations. In the following selection, I have highlighted some publications by highlighting. In one of the latest working papers, Highlighton and Lenartowicz provide a clear concept of the global brain. The global brain can be defined as the self-organizing adaptive network formed by all people on this planet together with the information and communication technologies that connect them into a cohesive system. The idea that global interactions have made the people on this planet interdependent to such a degree that they form a single superorganism, that is, an organism global society whose components are organisms themselves, individual people. How is that any different than like our bodies, which are made of cells, which can live on their own sometimes? But okay. As the internet becomes faster, smarter, and more encompassing, it increasingly connects people and computers into a single information processing network, which plays the role of a nervous system for the superorganism. The function of a nervous system is to coordinate the different activities taking place inside the organism, thus increasing their efficiency and coherence while minimizing any friction or conflict. It is not my intention to critique or even analyze the concept of global brain, but simply to suggest that it is an incomplete account to supplement from the approach from political economy, at the same time to make a plea for that this supplement is worth considering as a necessary element in appreciating any concept of global brain because it provides an analysis of cyber infrastructure that will help determine the technopolitics over ownership. Those are a lot of big words right there. First, I want to introduce my supplement by recalling Lessig's notion of communication system in terms of three elements: content, code, and architecture, or infrastructure. Lessig 2004 invented the free culture concept, establishing a movement of promoting the freedom to distribute creative works in the form of free or open content through the internet without compensation. Yes, this was an open access paper, so the open access movement goes back to some of this stuff here. A communication system thus has three layers, as it were. Each may be controlled or free. It is possible for the content to be free, while the code and architecture to be controlled or owned. Yeah. So it's the content, the PDF here is an open framework. You don't need to pay Adobe anymore for the PDF framework. And so the framework is, but then you can also have a proprietary, like Adobe Acrobat is owned by Adobe, of course, and so that code is not free, but the program I'm using to look at this PDF here is free. It's called Ocular. It's made by the KDE Foundation, and I quite like it. So, and of course the content is free. These words are not, they're copyrighted, but they were freely distributed. So that's what is going on. In terms of this elementary model, I want to explore the current expansion of subsea or marine fiber optic cables and their private ownership that will carry the bulk of messages at near the speed of light across the ocean floor. This analysis is crucial to any question of who owns the internet, a question that bears on the development of the global brain. Submarine communication cables were first laid on the seabed back in the 1850s to carry telephony traffic. The first transatlantic telegraph cable was laid in 1858, and the British dominance of the industry developed early links with neighboring Ireland, Belgium, and the Netherlands. In the 1860s and 70s, cables were laid to India and Saudi Arabia, and one to Australia was laid as an extension of the cable laid by the Eastern Telegraph Company. Trans-Pacific cables were laid in the earliest 20th century. It was not until the 1980s that the first fiber optic cables were developed and laid. These cables provided great clarity and did not suffer from the same induction effects, so fewer amplifiers and repeaters were required. Fiber optic cables provided long-term error-free transmission. Today, 99% of all data traffic for the internet is carried by subsea cables, which carry terabits per second, while satellites typically carry up to 1,000 megabits per second. Up until the late 1990s, fiber optic cables were constructed by consortia, including the dominant AT&T Corporation. Fun fact, about a mile in that direction is a street blanking on the name, but it was one of the people responsible for laying one of the first undersea cables from New York to Europe. Was laid by a guy that lived right over there, and so, yeah, like I'm less than maybe a mile, actually that way, not that way, from where that guy lived. So, Matthew 2019 confirms that we create about 2.5 terabits of data every day, and 99% of the data is carried by undersea cables. Matthew 2019 explains that there are close to 400 active subsea cables. Well, that is amazing. We went back in time right there. It's a typo. Let's ignore that first digit. Between 2016 and 2020, about 100 new cables have been laid, with bandwidth doubling every 2 years. The old cables cannot be expanded to cope with increased demand, and new cables provide economies of scale. He notes, in the last 5 years, the cables, which are partly owned by Google, Facebook, Microsoft, and Amazon, have risen 8-fold. Yeah, and there are much more such cables in the pipeline. These content providers also consume over 50% of all international bandwidth, and telegeography projects that by 2027 they can consume over 80%. Well, I mean, Google owns YouTube. Facebook is its own monster, who, by the way, is owned by Mark Zuckerberg, who also lived on that same street as the guy who did the transatlantic cable. Microsoft and Amazon are also giants, and I'm currently broadcasting on Twitch, which is owned by Amazon, which is another video streaming service. So these are the giant video and content streamers of the early 20th century, I guess. Late capitalism. Our oligarchs, as it were. Or techno leaders. Okay, he makes the following sober analysis. Think of the undersea cable network as a new economic trade route and the commodity in transit as data, arguably the most important commodity in the information age. Amazon, Microsoft, and Google own 65% of market share in cloud data storage. This makes them major exporters and importers of data. Imagine them forming I don't have to imagine them forming an oligopoly to own the routes they do. To transfer any data, of course, end consumers would benefit from reduced prices that are passed down by the content providers, who now enjoy a large economies of scale from owning cables. But smaller companies looking to compete will be at a disadvantage. They or anyone else looking to use these cables could be charged a higher price for bandwidth. There is no difference from an oil cartel in some aspects. A worse but less likely privacy-related concern is if Facebook decides to use all data passing through their cables to improve their services, regardless of who owns the data. Encrypt all the things, people. It doesn't matter who's transporting the data if it's encrypted. I mean, that's a... But of course, they're now trying to make laws that you can't fully encrypt your stuff. There's going to be backdoors. It's like, this is madness. It's just crazy. Anyway, the companies in question here are already more powerful than most people realize. If you need more convincing, read this article on how difficult life is without them, or better yet, listen to this podcast discussing surveillance capitalism. I have listened to this thing by Shoshana Zuboff. I listened to the podcast on that. The process we referred to is a discussion by Shoshana Zuboff in her new book, The Age of Surveillance Capitalism. Both Matthew and Zuboff have little difficulty in imagining the behavior of big tech monopolies when it comes to ownership and use of data. Yes, the Shoshana Zuboff has give some interviews and podcasts on surveillance capitalism. I encourage everyone to go listen to them, or go get her book. I haven't got her book, but I did listen to her podcast. A lot of things to discuss in there. The evolutionary cybernetic conception of the global brain as a model of the networked society based on distributed intelligent technologies is an attractive idea that is also philosophically inspired, but it needs the supplement of political economy. Of the ownership of undersea cables currently owned and being laid by big tech, not only from the US but also from China. Huawei is a big player in this market, laying some 100 cables. Who owns the physical infrastructure? The undersea cables will govern the internet. It may well be that the antitrust legislation will not be powerful enough to prevent the privatization of the internet and the ownership of data, information, and knowledge. It is a likely scenario, but this would be a tragedy for the global brain. Yeah, this isn't just a national problem. This is a transnational like antitrust. How are you going to do something transnational antitrust legislation? I think that's a little I don't even understand that. Oh, that was it. Okay. Um all right. So this paper is arguing that the private ownership of the undersea cables, which is basically creates a bottleneck for it only allows the biggest players to do it because these undersea cables are massively expensive. You have to other issues about them is I mean, you have to they're undersea and like the animals poke at them and like they get damaged and you need submarines to fix them and stuff. So it's like it's a huge undertaking. Um, so it's a little bit interesting. Okay, that you basically this is identifying a major bottleneck to the global information system. Okay, I mean it's interesting. I was a little shocked that it ended right there. I was like, no, you have to say more about how the control of the internet is going to make a difference, but that's okay. It's just a short article pointing out the issue with the current technological situation we're in. The information distribution is has to go through these cables, and the cables are controlled by the usual suspects. Okay, so that's it for now, I guess. I hope everyone has a good day, and I'll be back later. Maybe get a longer paper. This was especially short, even for me. But have a good day. Bye bye.